We're going to begin our journey here in the Little Ituri Forest. As we start to make our way in here, you're going to start to notice that there's a lot of trees around and a lot of foliage. That's going to help all the animals living in this dense part of the forest blend in with their natural surroundings. Oh, wow. Looks like right as we're entering over to the right-hand side here, we are being greeted by the okapi. So right behind the trees here. And as you're looking at that okapi, you're going to see the stripes along their hind legs, and that may cause you to think that they're going to be related to the zebra. In fact, they are not. Their closest living relative is actually going to be the giraffes, as giraffes and okapis share a very similar skeletal structure. Now in the wild, okapis are extremely timid animals. In fact, for the first 30 days of life, they'll remain fully hidden, as they have the fear that another predator might pick up on their markings. Out. Coming up along the left-hand side of the truck here, you can all meet my friend Badru. Badru is one of our black rhinos. From this distance, you can actually see that Badru is a very large animal. These black rhinos typically are going to grow to around 2,000 to 3,000 pounds. However, black rhinos are also the smallest rhino species. Closer to the truck here, we have one of our female saddle-billed storks right on the ground here. Now these animals are very large. They can actually stand at around 5 foot tall. They have a large wingspan of around 9 foot wide. You can actually tell that she's a female simply by looking at her eyes. As when we were passing her, you may have noticed she has yellow eyes. That is the indicator for all females. Males, on the other hand, otherwise known as the ghosts of the forest. They have very large, slicked-back horns that allow them to dive straight into bushes without being detected by any other animals. And at the bottom of the hill there, we have some greater kudos. As you're looking at those greater kudos, you're going to start to see those stripes along the backs. Bongos also have those stripes, and that's going to help those animals blend in with the natural sunlight that passes. There's pink-backed pelicans. If you look really close to their wings there, you can start to see why they get that name. It's right under the wings, they have a pink undercoating that they'll flash around during their mating season to help them in attracting a mate. Now, very similar to the storks, they have a large breath of around 8 minutes at a time, and over the years they have developed this amazing reflex that allows them to completely sleep underwater and just float up to the top of the surface to catch their breath and go right back down, all without even waking up. When they're on land though, they can actually reach speeds of around 35 miles an hour. As you can see, they are very large animals. They'll usually consume around 80 pounds of vegetation every single day, which is a small amount of food compared to our very next animal that you can find right over to the left-hand side, known as the Nile crocodiles. But these Nile crocodiles can actually grow up to 16 feet long and generally will weigh around 500 pounds. In their day-to-day lives, they'll usually consume half of that body weight, so anywhere between 200 and 250 pounds of meat every single day, which is a lot of food for one singular animal. But then again, that's a very large animal, and they are able to... As you're looking at that tree, you'll start to notice that it's currently leafless, and it'll actually remain leafless for 9 whole months throughout the entire year. Now, generally, a tree remaining leafless for that long out in the wild can mean that it's unhealthy, but in the case of the baobab tree, that tree is completely healthy and actually holds around 100,000 liters of water inside of it to carry it through the dry season. Now, because it has so much water, it typically attracts a lot of elephants, as those elephants are going to use their tusks to break holes into that tree that they can drink water right out of. As we make our way onto the savannah at this time, we'll start to notice a change in scenery, not as many trees around and not as much water. That's because these herd animals rely heavily on their large groups and their speed. Again, these are herd animals, very simply meaning that they live in very large groups. The first of which that we're coming across is going to be the Hartmann's mountain zebra. Now, these zebras are known as Domino, Clementine, and Heidi here on the reserve. You can actually tell the color of their skin just by looking at their noses. In this case, Domino, Clementine, and Heidi all have black noses, which indicates to us that they are black zebras with white stripes. Over to the left-hand side, you can actually spot one of our pack animals, known as the African painted dogs. Like most other dogs, these African painted dogs only have 4 toes. Generally, out in the wild, this would be considered a disadvantage that would hinder an animal's success when they're hunting. But in the case of the African painted dog, it actually helps them reach high speeds of over 40 miles an hour and maintain a high success rate when hunting of around 80%. And that higher success rate in turn is going to make sure that they're able to feed all the children, the adults, the injured and the elderly before the healthy adults. A little bit further back on the left-hand side here, we have some sable antelopes. These antelopes grow to around 5 foot tall to the shoulder, and they have 5 foot long curved back horns. In the savannah, a lot of predators like to jump on their prey's backs, so those horns actually make sure that no animal can jump on their back to take them down. Both the left and right-hand sides of the truck here, we're passing some wildebeest. Wildebeest typically live in the largest of herds, with a group usually consisting of around 1,000 of them. But annually, these animals are going to migrate from 500 to 1,000 miles, and they'll actually migrate right. These mounds that you see to the left and the right-hand sides of the truck, they are termite mounds. They're just made up of dirt that's come into contact with some type of moisture, and it's hardened that dirt to like cement. The animals on the savannah will actually use these termite mounds kind of like a back scratcher. And our springboks, one of the smallest antelope species, will stand right on top of these termite mounds and use them as a lookout point. Over to the left side of the truck, you start to get your first glimpse at our Maasai giraffes. Very, very large animals. They can typically grow anywhere between 16 to 20 feet tall. In their day-to-day lives, they'll usually consume around 80 pounds of vegetation, as they will eat for 16 plus hours chamber stomach, which helps them to digest 99% of all the food that they eat. It's helping them grab the vegetation found higher up the trees or lower in the bushes. But accompanying that neck, they have what's known as a prehensile tongue, which is a very long tongue that they'll use to wrap around branches to stabilize that branch as they eat the vegetation right off of it. So if you get a good look at their faces, you'll start to notice that they have very bright blue and red cheeks. Whenever they become really excited, really frightened, those cheeks will become a whole lot brighter, and inside of those cheeks, they actually have what's known as pouches that they'll use as start to rub these red clay pits here, you'll start to notice on the right-hand side that there are tusk marks in that clay. And those tusk marks belong to those African elephants. Now they'll actually consume this so you can start to see them from the sunlight and keep it extremely moisturized. Start to notice as we're passing them, they have very large, thick trunks. Inside of those trunks, they hold around 40,000 muscles, which is a lot of muscle for one singular area, but it does prove very vital to all the health of the elephants. On a base level, of course, to make sure that they're able to breathe properly, but also drink 56 gallons of water every single day, stabilize their food every single day. Right as we round this watering hole here over to the left-hand side, we're going to be coming across some of our greater flamingos, which are the largest flamingo species. As we're passing them, you're going to start to notice that some of them are pink while others are gray. That's going to help us identify which ones are adults and which ones are babies. Now, greater flamingos are hatched. They'll be hatched to that grayish coloration that you'll start to see. And they'll actually develop the pink pigmentation over the course of 1 to 2 years from eating the beta keratin that's found in shrimp and other crustaceans. But these animals are filter feeders, so typically you're going to see them diving their heads under the water and kind of tilting their head a little bit. It's going to help make sure that they're able to grasp onto their food and expel the water out of their mouths as they eat. Now, typically a group of bird would be known as a flock, but in the case of flamingos, a group of them are going to be known as a flamboyance. At this time, we are leaving the savannah officially. We're going to make our way into an area that I like to refer to as our white rhinos. White rhinos are the largest rhino species, typically growing to around 3,000 to 5,000 pounds. They are endangered, however. Fewer than 18,000 remaining on our planet as they're poached for their very large horns. Poachers do believe that those horns hold medicinal properties. However, scientists have negated this. They've shown that those horns are made of nothing but keratin, the same thing making all your nails and your hair. And very similar to the elephants, these white rhinos will roll around in mud in order to protect their skin, but also they don't have good eyesight, so they rely heavily on their hearing. They're not going to like bugs buzzing around their ears. So by rolling around that mud acts as a natural bug repellent. Our baby right here to the left-hand side, that is Logan, our baby girl. Aww. As you're looking at those cheetahs, you'll start to notice they have a very unique body frame. They're very slim, very long-bodied, very muscular animals. That body frame actually allows them to propel themselves at speeds of 60 to 70 miles an hour in the span of just a critically endangered antelope species, with fewer than 3,000 remaining on our planet. And the 19th century. Right behind kids, we have our male lion known as Dakari. Now, in the lion family, the females are the ones that go out and do all of the hunting, while the males stay home in order to protect the pride. It's not uncommon to see males doing hunting though, however they'll primarily only do this in what's known as a bachelor pride, which is a group of all males that have been kicked out of their previous pride. On the ground to the left-hand side here, we're coming across some warthogs. Very small but very mighty animals. You can actually spot both sets of tusks that they have. They'll use the bottom set of tusks to help dig out those holes that you'll see they sleep in, and the top set to help defend themselves from any other predators. And when they're sleeping, they'll sleep with both sets of tusks. Ostriches. We can actually tell that they're females just by looking at their known as the Nigerian dwarf goats. Now, typically these animals will exhibit a very playful behavior, and that's going to help them develop into their adulthood, but it's also going to help them establish dominance amongst each other. Out in Africa, these animals have been domesticated for the rich nutrients found inside of their milk, but they're also going to be known as a sign of wealth on the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. However, a lot of these species are either endangered or critically endangered, and a lot of our guests like to know, well, what can I do to help? And very simply, that is going to start at home. Now, if you were able to see your favorite animal here on the reserve today, or even if you weren't, there's no need to worry. When you get home tonight, go ahead and research that animal. See what, if any, conservation is being done to help repopulate that animal and provide them with a safe home to live. At home, if you have any smartphones or electronic devices that you no longer intend on using, I highly recommend that you recycle those. And inside of these devices, there's a mineral known as coltan, which is what powers them on. More and more studies are showing that a lot of the mining efforts done out in Africa are because these miners are looking for that coltan. So by recycling these devices, you recycle that coltan, which will lead to less mining, less habitat destruction, and more of a happy, healthy, and safe place for all of these animals to live. At this time, we are making our way toward our loading dock, so I'd like to say Asante Sana. Thank you all for joining me here at the Kilimanjaro Safari today. It has been the absolute pleasure having you all on board, and again, my name is
going to take you to Raffiki's. Paddington